Welcome back, YouTube, to another episode of 10 with Travis, where we take just 10 minutes a day to dive deep into the Word so you can be more equipped today than you were yesterday. On today's episode, we're going to talk about one phrase that Dr. Barker said during the Saturday morning service, and it sparked kind of something that God downloaded for me, I think, just to share here on this channel. So I can't wait to get into that. In the last episode, we discussed the theme of the conference, which was "As in Heaven," and we talked about Matthew 6, which is the Lord's Prayer, where it says, on earth as it is in heaven. And then we talked about Matthew 16, where it talked about giving the keys to the kingdom, that whatever you bind or forbid on earth, whatever's forbidden in heaven can also be forbidden on earth. And then anything that is allowed in heaven, we have the power to allow it on earth. So like binding poverty, right? There's no poverty in heaven, so we can bind that. We can forbid that here on earth. Or healing. There's healing in heaven, so we can allow healing on earth. So we can pull that healing from heaven down to earth. So we also talked about how sometimes the battle is first won in our mind. So it said, "As he thinketh the man is, so he is," as well as verses that said, "Out of the heart flows what comes out of the mouth." So we have to get some of these thoughts ingrained in us. So those are the words that we speak. And then we finished at the very end of last episode talking about the 30, 60, 100 progression, that sometimes our healing, our breakthrough, our blessing isn't instant, and we have to kind of wait on it, and that is something that we're going to touch on today. So the phrase that Dr. Barker said that stood out to me was, "Hold on to kingdom principles and promises without compromise." So just naturally as humans, instant gratification, especially in today's culture, we have a really hard time of being patient with God. A lot of times we get a promise, or we feel like God is telling us to go somewhere, or that he has something for us, and we want it the next day like we get on Amazon, but rather God's timing is totally different than the world's timing and our own perceived timing, and we have to wait on it. Now again, it's a struggle for humans, but this has been a struggle for thousands of years, and we're going to look through in the book of Genesis just some examples way back at the beginning with Abraham and Sarah, and how they also had a struggle with this. So when so again, it's Abraham and Sarah, but his name was Abram and her name was Sarai before God changed it to those two new names. So when Abram was 75 years old, God told him he would be a great nation, and that was in Genesis 12. So this is the first recording of God implying to Abram that he will have many descendants, or will have obviously sons and daughters. At the time though, Abram had no children. So then when he was 85 years old, this is recorded in Genesis 15, we see that God kind of more specifically promised him a son, and even told him to look up at the sky, and if he could count the number of stars in there, so his descendants would be. So again, more of a specific, hey, you will have a son, and look up, here's how many descendants you will have. So one chapter later in Genesis 16, which also was 1 year later, because it says that Abram was 86 years old. This is when Sarai convinces Abram to sleep with Hagar. So, Sarai said, "I have no ability, basically to bear children, but here I have this younger maidservant, Hagar. You should sleep with her so we can kind of get the ball rolling here." So only a year after God was a little bit more specific, telling Abram that he would have the child, Abram wanted to go ahead and take things into his own matter, in his own hands. So we all kind of know that Abram knew that he shouldn't go about it this way, and this was a compromise to the kingdom principles and promises that God had given him. So one chapter later, which is Genesis 17, which is a little bit longer in time though, Abram is 99 years old, and this is when he gets his new name, as well as Sarai getting her new name of Sarah. God basically tells him it's time. And then a year after that, when Abraham now is 100 years old, they bear a child, and that child's name is Isaac, and he is, said to be the promised child of Abraham. So kind of as from beginning to end, it took 25 years from when he was 75 and he said God told him he'd be a great nation to 100 where he had his first son that was by Sarah. That 25 years is a long time to wait. Now again, for us many times we don't have to wait 25 years, but sometimes we may have to wait 25 years. But we have to know that God's timing is better than us trying to jump in and thinking, hey God, I know you need some help. Let me come in here and try to compromise your promise and go ahead and bring it to fruition myself. So that's just never the way to do it. So I just want to encourage you, if you are waiting for something with God, keep waiting. Like I said, Abram had to wait 25 years for the perfect promise, the perfect solution, or the way God was going to do it. So if you're waiting, please continue to wait on that. And it brings me into another point of waiting in isolation is just so much harder than waiting with somebody or discussing it with somebody or walking alongside with someone on maybe steps you can take or that God's telling you to take in the meantime to get you to that promise. So if you are holding on to that and declaring, that in your life, that it will manifest in your life, we would love to go on that journey with you. So you can please reach out via email. You see that below. We would love to walk alongside of you and help you in that journey just to build your faith and continue keeping you on that track to the promise that God has for you. 1 Corinthians 13:1 says, by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, every word should be established. So again, that's bringing someone in with you, agreeing that that is God's promise and that is what will happen, and then having that person walk alongside you, declaring that, because we know that it says, by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses, every word shall be established. So that person can help you. And again, we would love that for to reach out to us and to help you with that. And then Matthew 18:19, this is Jesus' words. He says, again, I say to you that if 2 of you agree on earth concerning anything that they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. So bringing along that person, letting it be established by 2 witnesses, letting 2 people agree so it'll be done by the Father in heaven, that's something you want to do. So again, I want to reiterate, if you would like us to walk alongside with you, please reach out. We would love to help. We are here to help build the kingdom, not only just to share the gospel, but to turn people's lives from just mundane, average Christian life to the Christian abundant life that God has for each and every one of us. So if this channel has blessed you and you'd like to give to the network so we can continue to reach more people and help more people, please see the ways to do so below. Continue the challenge that we've been talking about, the power of your voice. Use your words of life and not death to speak into your situation so you can see it turn around instead of going the other way and getting worse just because of the power of your voice and the words you speak. So use life-giving words. Let that flow out of you. And we will continue some of this topic on the next episode, and we would love to have you back here at 10 with Travis.